So if you have a kid in college, do you have any idea what they're doing right now? I mean, think about it. Like, when you send your kid off to college, do you know the kinds of temptations that they're actually facing on a daily basis the moment they set foot on that college campus? I mean, it's no wonder why a lot of people who need their records sealed or expunged, they need to do so because of indiscretions that they made in their college years, in their late teens, and in their early 20s and beyond. And so that's why it's really important to stay educated on the kinds of things that your kids are doing in college so it doesn't ruin their eventual careers and the trajectory of their lives. So today what I'm doing is discussing the top 5 ways that college students get in trouble in a way that could affect their future lives and their career. So stay tuned. So I am criminal defense attorney Hannah Akintoye, and I really want to ensure that parents are educating their kids on what they need to know before they enter the college campus. The reason why I mention this is because a lot of people, and I'm talking people in their 40s and 50s and even their 60s, are coming back to get records expunged from decisions. I mean, and I'm talking about poor or dumb decisions that they made in their early 20s and in their college years. Now, I've actually developed a resource that has the top 10 ways that college students get into trouble. For today, in this video, I'm going to focus on the top 5. So if you want that free resource, just look at the description below and it will give you instructions on how to get a copy of that. Share it with whomever you think will need the information, because this information is super important and I feel like a lot of people are not educated on it. The first way that college kids get into trouble in a way that could ruin their lives is by picking up a DUI charge. So whether your kid is underage or over the age of 21, getting a DUI is not where they want to be. Why? Because honestly, the cost of just getting representation for a DUI charge can range between $2,500 and $5,000. That's money that you're paying on their behalf, or they're having to pay, that's taken away from their college tuition, their college experience, food and board, and so many other things. So one, the cost of a DUI, not even worth it. Secondly, your license is likely to be suspended if you get a DUI. And then third, having DUI charges usually stay on your record forever. If you have a DUI conviction, in most states, it's hard to get that charge off of your record. And so unfortunately, every single time your kid's record is being run for a job or an opportunity that they have, they are more likely to get declined, because honestly, DUI charges scream irresponsibility. It screams a person who cannot control their alcohol, and then also a person who cannot make wise decisions, especially after drinking or doing other things. And so what people want for jobs and opportunities and careers are responsible people. And if your child has a conviction, especially one that's criminal in nature, that shows that they are not responsible, they are going to be judged by that conviction for the duration of their life. And it's just not a way to navigate a career, having to combat that every day. So DUI charges, not worth it at all. It's so much better to get to and from events and parties through other means of transportation. All right, so the second on my list is fake IDs. Now these are for the college kids that are under the age of 21, who are usually trying to get into a party for 21 and over, and of course they're not of age. Now the thing about fake IDs, most of the time they're just, little misdemeanor offenses, but depending on the magnitude of it, it could be a fraud charge, or it could be something that's a felony charge, depending on how that fake ID or whatever that item, that identification item is being used. So what is important for your child to know is that they can't use somebody else's ID, and especially they cannot use a fake ID. Nowadays, it's harder to use fake IDs because a lot of these, the bouncers or the security at these parties, they're now scanning IDs. But even if they scan, an ID and it turns out to be a fake ID, the fact that you even try to use it is a crime in and of itself. So it's a horrible thing to actually use a fake ID, not even be able to get into the party, and then have to get charged with that fake ID. So really important that your child understands that they shouldn't use anybody's ID, no matter how close they may look. They probably shouldn't use a friend or a family member's ID, and they certainly should not be using fake IDs as well. All right, now the third on my list, the third way that college kids seem to get into trouble in a way that could technically ruin their lives is by binge drinking. Now, I know that I talked about DUIs before, but binge drinking is completely different. And when it comes to binge drinking, a lot of the times the issue lies in the decisions that are made as a result of binge drinking. So this really comes down to peer pressure, or just really the inability to kind of gauge how drunk or how much you drank, especially when your body is still smaller than the size that it's eventually going to be. But a lot of college students are binge drinking, and then they're making poor decisions thereafter. And so they're doing things like committing crimes because of their inability to make coherent decisions. So binge drinking is really something that your college student or your college kid really needs to know to keep under control. You're going to have plenty, and I mean plenty of years to drink, I promise you. Every wedding, event, adult party that you go to will likely have alcohol involved, I promise. So there will always be plenty of years to drink, but you only have a limited period of time in college and to make an impression that could last through your entire career. So binge drinking, not worth it, especially if you're somebody who doesn't remember what happened after you've been drinking. That's a bad place to be, especially when it comes to being charged with a crime. So that brings me to my fourth item on my list, which is sex crimes. Now, this is one that a lot of people don't think that their kid could be involved in, but trust and believe it unfortunately happens more often than not. And I usually see this in a situation where either kids have been drinking, binge drinking, or they were doing drugs, and now they're in a situation where they're either so intoxicated or they're so high that they make decisions to be intimate with somebody, and they are not quite sure if there was even any consent. The other way around could also be true, where you've been drinking, or maybe you've taken drugs, or you didn't even know that some type of item that you had brownies, didn't know that there was marijuana in it. Whatever the situation may be, your drink was spiked, or there was some substance placed in your drink unbeknownst to you. And now you are in a place where you cannot make proper, solid decisions, and you don't know whether or not you've consented to something. You don't know if you should report it to the campus police or otherwise. So being in a state of mind where you're not sure what's happening, and now you're making decisions about being intimate with somebody, could really be a serious crime. Not only is being charged with a sex crime a horrible place to be, but if you are convicted of a sex offense, you could be somebody who is required to register as a sex offender. And these sex offender lists are open to the public. Anybody can research you and find out if you are on this sex offender list. Not a place where you want to be if you're applying to jobs, or if you're looking to get into a career like teaching, or if you are trying to work for the government and you need a certain type of clearance level. Sex offenses are just a horrible place to be, and it honestly can, in fact, ruin your life. So whether you are the person who is initiating an encounter with somebody, or you're a person who is on the receiving end and is consenting to some type of encounter, it's really important that before you make any move in that regard, you already know what you're doing, and you are in a clear-headed state of mind to be able to make decisions about what you do with your body. So the fifth on my list, and the fifth that we'll be discussing today out of my entire list of 10, is assault charges, or essentially bar fights. So again, this also goes back to drinking, it goes back to drugs and alcohol, where if you get so intoxicated and so inebriated at a party, event, or some type of gathering, and now you're in a situation where you have a dispute with somebody else, you're not in a place where you can de-escalate that situation. In fact, it will likely exacerbate the situation if you are under the influence of any drug or narcotic or alcohol. So a lot of the time, college kids are getting into bar fights, and they're getting into petty fights over little to no reason. And this is really simply because of the emotions that arise and the issues that arise from either being drunk or intoxicated or under the influence of some type of substance. So if you get into a bar fight, it can really depend on how big the fight is. On one hand, if it's just a simple fist fight, maybe you may walk away with a misdemeanor. But let's say somebody it starts bleeding, you significantly bruise somebody, or you knock somebody's teeth out, you give somebody a black eye, or you severely cut somebody. Now we're talking about felony offenses. You're looking at significant time in jail over something that usually didn't have a reason or a basis to engage in a fight in the first place. So ensuring that you are in the best frame of mind to be able to make decisions, especially when it comes to disagreements with people or altercations with people, and the ability to de-escalate all of that is extremely important in college. And I feel like a lot of college kids are not trained in de-escalating, especially when they're being bullied, especially when somebody else hits them first. It is actually very possible for somebody to hit you first, and the way that you react is so extreme that you get charged with a crime. I've seen that happen, unfortunately, and being knowledgeable about how to handle these situations is so important. So again, if you want the entire list of the top 10 ways that college kids are getting into trouble in ways that ruin their lives and their careers, feel free to just reach out and look at the description below and get that free resource that you can either share with your friends, family, or anybody who needs it. So if there is anything out of this list of 5 that I went over today that you are the most worried about or the most concerned about when it comes to your college kid, I want you to drop that in a comment below, because I am curious to know what your major concerns are when it comes to protecting your kid. If you have any questions for me, always feel free to message me below, or you can message me on my website, mydclaw.com, and I would be happy to chat with you further. So stay safe and take care. I'll see you all soon.